episode 4 of the First Hit podcast. Let's go Yankees baseball.
All
Rizzo.
right. All right. So let's talk about Anthony Rizzo, right? What does it mean for the future? Well, first of all, we have to talk about how well he's doing right now. He hit those two big home runs for the Yankees over the weekend. He's been getting clutch hits. He brings a different hitting approach to the Yankees. He doesn't strike out much. He walks, inside out hitter, all of that. He brings a good dimension. Also, you can't forget, obviously, he's a lefty, right? Also, playing first, he plays a better first base than anyone the Yankees have. He's better than Luke Voit defensively.
And he was a
And I
gold
think,
glover. He
yeah,
probably
and
is a gold glover right
mhm.
now.
And first base, I think, is kind of an underrated position defensively. It's overlooked a lot, but it's actually pretty key, in my opinion. You don't want someone that's making mistakes there, right? So
Well,
I think it's.
especially at shortstop with the Yankees, their situation's a bit iffy. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they don't really have a true shortstop, and it's going to help to have a good first baseman because if some guys can't make the throw consistently, especially in a
Mm-hmm.
deep hole, having Rizzo there could really save him a few outs.
Yeah, just the other day, Tyler Way was playing third base, and he made a couple of, off-target throws, and Rizzo he hauled them in. So that just kind of shows his versatility there. Now, going forward, should talk about what this means for Luke Voit, short term and long term.
Well,
So
short term, he's not playing outside of DH.
yeah,
I mean,
DHing
even
and backup.
I really
Yeah,
can't see him back up often though because Rizzo's an everyday first baseman, like a
yeah,
legit.
that's true.
Rizzo,
hmm
some years has potential to play 162 games. I mean, he's played 160 before,
hmm
so I could see him playing almost every game going down the stretch.
Yeah, so I think you're right. I think DH is pretty much his only path right now. And also, I think you have to take into account Giancarlo Stanton. Good chance of him getting injured at some point in the rest of the season. So I think it's good to have Luke Voit still available to DH in case that happens. Just
Is
look at the
Stanton playing as a DH right now, or is he going to switch out to left field?
the past few games he's played in left field. They also put him in right field yesterday, so he can play either corner, and he looked pretty fine to me. He didn't make any errors in field. I don't know too much about his range,
I
but
mean, range is a concern. It's not really if
yeah,
you get to the ball, you're gonna probably catch it as a major leaguer. But the issue is if he can actually get there at this point in his career.
yeah, I think he'll do just fine. They stick him in left field. It's not like it's the one of the high pressure defensive positions.
Well,
I think
especially at Stadium.
yeah, it's not it's a corner outfield spot. It's not third or short. So I think obviously he's not hitting well right now, so it's kind of a weird spot. But you expect him to go back to his normal production at some point this season. I think it's smart to have kept Voigt. I know they tried to trade him, but I think it was good to hold on to him. They can still trade him in the offseason if an offer comes up for pitching or something like
But do
that.
you think his trade value will be lower than it would have been?
I think if they trade him in the offseason, it'll probably be higher if he can finish the season hitting, getting back to his old production like last year. He led the majors in home runs. I think if he can get back somewhat to that, I think he should be able to acquire either some prospects or
Could
if
you
the Yankees
depend
want
on
some
that though?
pitching. Hmm?
Could you depend on that though?
No, but I think there'll definitely be teams trying to trade for him. I don't know, like you said,
You
the
think
value,
it
but
could be a Dominic Smith situation where the Yankees ask him for
potentially.
offseason to lose some weight so he could play the outfield?
I don't see him playing the outfield. I think he's had foot problems in the past.
Now the
He's
advantage of the Yankees is that they have a DH, and
hmm
Dom Smith did DH before he could play the outfield during that 2020 year.
yeah.
That really helped him break out, so to speak.
hmm
So perhaps DHing full time might help him out as a player to
It's
focus on,
possible.
especially because I mean he's not a good first baseman by any
No.
means. So
Yeah.
maybe not playing first base might help him mentally.
Possible. It's possible. I think long term, they'll probably let Rizzo walk this offseason. They'll
Back to the Cubs, honestly.
that's possible. He might want to. He was there for so long. He's such a key part of the team and culture. He might
He
go
was
back. It's
basically their
possible.
captain. I mean,
Yeah. They just traded him because he was a free agent. They didn't want the chance of him walking. But so if they let him walk, the Yankees let Rizzo walk. Say they trade Voit, so now you can you get a little bit more clarity in the infield. You have Urshela at third. Now you can move Gleyber Torres from short to second, and now you can put LeMahieu at first. And
Mhm.
that allows you to look for an upgrade at shortstop. You can look, next year is supposed to be a pretty big shortstop class.
So you have
They
Trevor
could,
Story. That's
mhm,
probably your main target, if not Correa.
yeah,
I can't see Correa
yeah,
coming to the Yankees
I
at
don't
all
see Correa. There's
because he's
too much
yeah, it's too
baggage.
much there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Also, you have that entire scandal, which the Yankee fans directly think is at them. So
yeah, I
couldn't see
he would
Correa
never,
even be
yeah.
considered. Um,
Corey Seager,
Baez would be the other one, but I can't see the
Baez,
Mets letting
yeah.
him fully walk. I'm being honest. I mean,
I don't know. I mean,
I don't see the Mets giving him any major deal, but
I wouldn't.
he
We can
might
talk about
accept.
that later, but
I can't see him. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But I can't see him taking a shorter term deal though. At this point in his career, I mean, Baez. Let's be honest, he's really just a power bat who plays with a lot of flash type
yeah, that's what he
on
is.
the base bats. I mean, he's flashy. I mean,
Hmm.
that's what he is. And in Baez's case, he might fetch a bit too much for the Yankees to bother
Yeah,
because
yeah,
for his value, I mean, Yankee Stadium might help a player like Baez too.
maybe.
I mean,
I think
every hitter coming to the Yankees sees a
gets
offensive
boosted a little bit. But can
just
you
because.
imagine someone like Corey Seager though, a lefty coming in? If the Yankees really want to keep pushing down that path of getting lefties, I think Corey Seager would be such a great fit.
Corey Seager is a bit injury prone. We could
Yeah,
say
but
that.
that hasn't stopped the Yankees before though.
No, hopefully Gallo long term for a few more years, right? Maybe they'll
Yeah,
sign him after this.
I think they should re-sign him. I
I
think
think
whatever he asked for,
he could be a perfect hitter for them.
I think so.
He
I
suits the
really believe
part.
it.
He hits well. I mean, he is almost like built to be a Yankee. I'm being honest. I mean, his power numbers have always been there, as we all know. His
Hmm.
batting average is a bit low, but his on
Yeah,
base
but
is
that doesn't matter.
up. I mean,
Yeah,
his
on
on
base is
base,
just great.
honestly, the last um 2 seasons, pretty much, his on base has been better than usual.
Hmm.
But he's had years, well, were really stretches where the on base wasn't quite there. And the hope for the Yankees right now would probably have to be that it isn't right now because he
Hmm.
struggled a tick coming over. I get it's an extremely small sample size. I mean, 4 games.
Yes, it's still too early, but
It might
yeah,
just be adapting to a new team, right? You need a few
hmm
at bats to get going.
yeah, for sure. I mean, Rizzo was kind of like that was a anomaly a little
I
bit
mean,
the way he just came in.
all the big three of the Cubs players they traded away. All
Yeah,
weird. I mean, that's weird.
that was
But
crazy.
Bryant was that was a nice homer.
Yeah,
But
it was.
sadly, it wasn't with the Mets.
Can
I
you
think
do?
all players went to the place where they're most likely to resign because Rizzo, outside of the Cubs, I could
Probably the
see
Yankees. Yeah,
probably the Yankees. I
I
mean,
think he's a good fit.
yeah, so do I. Bryant went to San Francisco, where he's also more likely to resign because he grew up in the area. He grew
Yeah,
up
it's
as
true.
a Giants fan,
And
so
they have a lot of money to
yeah, if
burn,
there's any
so
team that's
he'll
going to
resign.
sign him, it would be them.
Hmm. But
And Baez with the Mets. So
the thing with Rizzo, they were to re-sign him is you kind of run into the same problem you had with Voit. Obviously, if they can find someone to, trade Gleyber Torres to, that would become. But I don't know if if they're willing to give up like that. That's a pretty big admission that he's not the player that you thought he was going to be. Because it's the same thing. If you have Rizzo at first, you still have LeMahieu at second, and you still have Glaber at short. So you still, like I said, it's the same problem. So it would be nice to bring back Rizzo, but I don't see it happening unless they're going to be trading Glaber Torres. And I don't know if you even want that because his value is pretty low. I mean, sure, some team will probably come in and try to pick him up just because of his upside, but you're not going to get any sort of crazy package for him
now, if the
at this
Yankees
point.
don't make a deep run at the playoffs this year, or even don't even make the playoffs, given how the AL has been stacking up, what do these trades look like to you? Are they complete failures at this point if they don't actually produce on it?
I think the two trades, even if they don't make a deep run or miss the playoffs, I think they had to take swings. They couldn't just stay where they
Yeah.
were. I mean, yeah, I think.
What
But the
about
thing is,
selling instead? Could the Yankees have sold?
They could have, but it's two parts to that question in my mind. First, the question of would they have sold? The answer to that I think is no. I don't think the Yankees would have sold at all because I think they didn't want to seem like they were giving up. It's different back in 2016. They didn't really have any sort of foundation that proved that they could make deep playoff runs. Whereas now, the past few years, they've made it pretty far in the playoffs. So they've proven that this core can make it far. And second, I'm not sure what pieces they really could have sold. I mean, the best piece that they could have sold is probably Aaron Judge, but I don't think they'd ever do that. He's too much. He's the face of the franchise pretty much, and I think it would just create too much of a hit to the team. Morale wise, also the fan base.
So essentially, they were out of options, and this was their only real route.
I think so. I think they couldn't sell, and I think staying pat was just you saw that the way the team was constructed wasn't going anywhere. So I think they had to buy.
I mean, to be fair, they avoided their main prospects.
Yeah.
Trade, luckily.
That was very good.
They still lost a lot.
They lost a lot of depth.
They lost a lot of guys, especially they lost a lot of guys that could be average major leaguers.
Yeah.
And that doesn't look like a lot, but that can add up when you need to fill in a roster spot, right?
Potentially.
When you have a guy go down for injury and you got to fill in a spot. That's where that kind of comes in handy to have young guys that could take those utility roles.
Yeah. Well, I think that was the benefit that the Yankees over the past few years they've built up the farm system to have a lot of depth. I think this was the perfect time to utilize it. There's a roster crunch pretty much. So I'm not sure how many of those guys they traded probably would have made it up. I think I saw like 4 of them were due to be in the Rule 5 draft this offseason. So they're probably going to lose them anyway.
Yeah, good time to use them.
Yeah, so I think Cashman, I think he might actually be underrated again. I think he did a great job at the deadline, in my opinion.
Keith, what do you think about the Yankee situation right now, overall?
I think in some aspects it may be a good situation to have. They have too many players that are actually good. Because if someone does go down with an injury, there's a quick replacement. You don't have to panic to find somebody. But also then you have to try to figure out ways to spread playing time around. Because if the guy doesn't come off the bench for a long time, will he still be able to have that same impact without seeing it at bats?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit of a situation, but I think it may be a better situation than, you're missing a piece and you're now having to find one in your minor league system.
I also think not giving up Dominguez.
Oh yeah,
is probably the hugest thing that Yankees could ever have made. I mean,
the
only guy in the league that might have asked for Dominguez would have been a Scherzer trade.
And even then, I wouldn't have gone for that.
I can't see the Yankees having done that. There was no one really available that would have costed him anyway. Even in
his
a one
upside, his upside is just too high. I'm not sure. I don't know if I could trade anybody for him, honestly.
Well, I think if someone said Mike Trout, I think you trade him. But
Mike Trout, he's gonna be 30 soon, and he's more injury prone than Aaron Judge. Over the past 3 years or so, he's missed more time.
Yes, but Mike Trout is also by far the best player in baseball.
Oh, of course.
Surefire MVP front runner every year he's healthy.
Healthy is key.
I mean, he's a Hall of Famer.
He is.
Right? You can't, if you look up his stats, he basically leads the league in tons of categories almost every year. The only stat he doesn't lead the league in every year is home runs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's been up there in RBIs before. Honestly, playing for the team he does, it's a bit tough, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's more a product of your situation.
I mean, he also led the league in stolen bases his second year. Like everyone forgets that. This guy can steal too. He's not just some power bat.
I think he got better defensively too. He struggled early on, but he improved. He's
pretty much a Gold Glove center fielder.
He's the complete package. There's no doubt about that.
Perfect player.
He's 5 tools.
And he's 29 right now. So
I don't want to make crazy comparisons, but
I think if they offered him 3 years ago, you're taking it without even blinking an eye, right?
Of course, yeah.
Now that he's 29,
I think about it a little bit.
I still think Trout could hold up for another 4 or 5 years at a top level player. But
you got to look at.
You might have to think about that trade a bit more, but still,
I think so.
Still, as
much. Back in the '90s, Andrew Jones for the Braves. He if you look at him statistically, he profiles pretty similar to Mike Trout. And then towards his late 20s, his body started breaking down, and his late 30s, he pretty much just fell off a cliff, and now he's not even in the Hall of Fame. I think he's
Well,
like on his eighth or
I
ninth
think it would be
ballot.
tough to argue Trout out of the Hall of Fame at this point, though.
No, I think he should be, but if he just fell off the face of the earth right now, there'll probably be voters who would say,
He'd
not
still get
first
quite a
ballot.
votes, though. He'd still get
He
quite.
would. Oh,
He
yeah, I
might still
agree.
get in as a
I
second.
would. I would vote him in.
I would vote him in too. So
Yeah.
I
But
think
anyway, yeah.
so outside of, let's leave Trout alone for a minute.
Yeah. Let's talk about. I want to talk about the Mets a little bit. What do
Yeah.
you think about
so,
Javi Baez? What do you think about his impact so far and for the rest of the season?
So I don't think he was what the Mets fully needed. I thought someone like Bryant was more valuable to them, but given their sudden hole at shortstop, right, not having Lindor, they pretty much got one of the best guys defensively to fill in. I mean, outside of Lindor, who's a Gold Glover at shortstop, pretty much, Baez is probably your best bet that was available.
Yeah, I agree.
You could have argued Story as a slightly better offensive replacement, but he hasn't done it this year. So I wouldn't
Also,
take that risk.
I don't think the Rockies were going to trade him.
Yeah,
That's
I
a
think
whole other discussion.
if there is a
they're
player
doing-
the Rockies are actually going to keep around, it has to be him right now.
I don't think he's going to resign though. I think he wants out. I think that they're just going to get they're going to get that pick, the
Remember that-
compensatory.
The Rockies at a time looked like they actually had a pretty good team.
They did, yeah. They had
They
had
had-
him and Arenado,
Yeah.
and then things went downhill. As you
Charlie
know.
Blackman was pretty underrated too.
Yeah,
They had a solid team offensively out
they
there.
did.
The Rockies are always going to have a good offense. So
They're a playoff team.
they were a playoff team. Yeah. And then,
Shame.
yeah, it's a shame, but it happens to teams in small markets.
That's the thing though.
Outside of Tampa.
They had a lot of they spent they were given like a mid-market budget, and then the GM just did not spend it properly at all. He gave out some horrible contracts.
The
That's the
one
thing,
guy
they-
should have kept around, absolutely, was Arenado.
Yeah, you don't trade
That
him.
felt like
You don't anger him. You don't make him upset.
he really
do
is a
what you
Hall of
gotta
Famer too. He's another guy that
He probably will be. Yeah,
He probably will be. I mean, he's the best third baseman defensively since he started. I mean, by far.
he'll make a couple ballots. He'll make. I agree.
Yeah.
What do you think the Mets should re-sign Javi Baez after this season?
Honestly, I don't think so. I don't think he's gonna age well. Given, I mean, unlike Lindor, when Lindor was at his best, let's say the most recent 2 months, right, when he was healthy, that was closer to his best. We still haven't seen Lindor like what he did with Cleveland,
Yeah,
mainly because the power hasn't really been there, even though the batting average has been there somewhat. Like after that first 2 months where Lindor was hitting 180, 170, Lindor kind of recovered batting average wise. I mean, he was hitting right around 230, 240 towards the end of it. And that was recovering from a 180 stint, which is tough to do. So, I mean, his power never really showed up, but he also moved to Citi Field.
yeah, that's true. That's going to depress it a little bit.
The concern would be, though, if the power doesn't show up and you just gave this guy a $300 million contract.
Yeah, that's that you're in big trouble at that point.
And he also, because he hasn't been on base as much, he hasn't stolen as many bases.
Yeah,
So you have all these
It's tough.
factors. I mean, the one lucky thing is that he really anchored their defense. And now
Yeah.
that he's out, it's showing. I mean, Baez is the best replacement you could probably get that was available, but he's not the same as Lindor. I mean, Lindor could keep a positive wins above replacement just on defense. Like
that's
we
true.
saw
He
that.
could, yeah.
Kept a positive one just on defense.
So let's say that they don't re-sign Javi Baez, right?
Mhm.
Do you think that's acceptable? What's your perspective on the package they gave up to get him? So would it be all right in terms of the package?
So
Was it too much or was it just right?
Pete Crow Armstrong, that's the entire trade.
Yeah. So
Uh,
what do you think about him?
So I thought the pick when they drafted him was great. Now he's been injured. I don't think he's injury prone though. I think it was just a few unlucky stuff that happened to him, and I thought he had potential. Now, when he was being talked about in the um Diaz trade, right? Diaz Cano trade. That was when they first talked about him to trade him.
Hmm.
I did not think that it would have been a good move to trade him then, but now his value is kind of at a low, right? Relatively. So trading him now made little sense to me, but they have to trade a top 5 prospect to get Baez, right? Now, if it was going to be a top 5 prospect, he was a guy to give up.
Okay, that's fair.
So it was kind of like the best you could do with the situation. Because I don't think they wanted to give up JT Ginn or Mark Vientos, right?
Hmm.
And you certainly don't want to go down into Alvarez, Batty, Maruccio group. That trio is the Mets' future by far. Like clear away, you know what you're getting out of those guys. You know they're gonna, if they keep on going at the rate they're going at, right? You could see it. I mean, Brett Batty is your third baseman of the future right now. Probably after JD Davis leaves, and maybe why they didn't go after Bryant as much, right? As you thought they would have. Also, maybe because of price, right? You don't want to give up Alvarez,
Yeah. Hmm.
who also hit 2 home runs yesterday, by the way.
I saw it. He's a beast. He's a beast.
He's like, if he can consistently hit while also playing as well as he has at catcher, and he keeps on doing it throughout the minor leagues, and then when he comes up,
Could be a perennial all-star.
He's going to be McCann's replacement. That's what the thought was when you signed McCann over Realmuto, right? That McCann would be a temporary stopgap in between. Like, why spend on a catcher like Realmuto when you have Alvarez right behind him? So,
it's true. I agree.
Brett Batty keeps it up. He's your third baseman of the future. Maruccio, I don't know if there's a slot for him really, because he's more. Right now he's a shortstop, right?
Mm-hmm.
Probably projects as a third baseman long term. But if Brett Batty's your third baseman, or if Mark Vientos is your third baseman or left fielder, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're kind of stuck with him.
Yeah, I mean,
you could turn him into a center fielder or come up with something, ship him to second. But regardless, maybe Lindor at that point can't play shortstop as well.
Could be. We also have to think about, there's a decent chance one of them just doesn't pan out.
Yeah, so that's
being prospects. So it works out.
They have 3 guys that could play third of that group, so that works out perfect.
I mean, and if anything, if they all do become really good, by good chance you can just package that. It's better to be good than exactly. That's the Dodgers' problem. You'd rather have that.
Dodgers always have that problem though.
That's true.
I think another good thing was not giving up Matthew Allen.
Yeah.
Because, I mean,
upside.
I mean, his upside is an ace, right? Like there's some pitchers when you look at them, their upside is ace potential. Now, a lot of those guys don't pan out.
Of course.
Right? But if you're the Mets, knowing all the pitching injuries you've had, with guys, even with guys like DeGrom, the best pitcher in baseball, like he's been hurt. The Mets have to keep as many of these young guys around because some of them might end up coming up sooner rather than later. I mean, look at McGill right now, right? I mean, yesterday was a bit iffy for him. He gave up a grand slam in the first inning, but after that was perfect through 5. So, I mean, prospects help you sooner than you think sometimes as pitchers.
I agree.
So, from the Mets perspective, also, Kumar Rocker.
Oh yeah, I think that was a mistake. What do you think?
Well, we don't have a full medical report, right?
Yeah, we don't know the whole story.
We just know that the Mets found something that other teams didn't, and that he didn't go in for the MLB medical, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's why they were allowed to get the compensation.
So him not going in for the medical, though, he was like the only guy to not do it in the first few rounds, right? So that's kind of concerning. I mean, first he doesn't go in, right? When his teammate Jack Leiter does.
Yeah.
And then the Mets find something. We don't know what it is, but if it's something that needs Tommy John, then that's different. That I don't know. That's a different situation than, he needs like a Matt Harvey type of procedure thoracic outlet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or something like that. I mean, they said it was an elbow thing. Who knows
Who
what that
knows?
is?
Yeah, it's too vague. We just don't know. It's the thing.
It could be an R.A. Dickey situation,
Possible.
but
Well,
I don't
I mean,
see that being it because he throws. I mean, he did lose some velocity.
he was a knuckleballer anyway. So,
R.A. Dickey became a knuckleballer though.
oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Came up as a true normal pitcher. But after the surgery, yeah, he had like a few issues with his elbow where he was missing that the part they removed in Tommy John. Right.
Yeah.
So it's a weird situation that the Mets have been put in. Next year's draft is a bit deeper, but
Yeah.
not
So yeah,
so
I guess I can't really fault the Mets decision not to sign him, but the only thing I would say is if they knew that he had decided not to go to the not to get the physical, so I feel like they should
he
have been
fell
a
to the
bit more.
10th spot.
Hmm?
He fell to the 10th spot. What are they gonna do?
Yeah, but yeah, I know. But the thing is, it
That
kind of
might be why he fell, but you still have
yeah,
to think if he's actually healthy, right? That's what the Mets were thinking. If he's fine, right? If our medicals check out after we draft him, then you got to steal the draft. Period. You got an ace.
yeah.
You got a
The
guy
thing
who
is,
should be a top 5 pick.
the only thing is because they had to um bargain for the over slot, they had to go under slot for pretty much the rest of the draft. So that's the only thing I find fault with, that it kind of
Yeah.
negatively impacted the rest of the draft. But I mean, other than that, I think it was smart to take the chance on him. Sometimes
Now,
it just doesn't work out.
sooner or later, he's gonna sign with the Braves and become an ace. But
We all know it.
we all know it. He's gonna play a year independent ball, get drafted first overall next year when the Braves collapse to last. I'm only kidding. It's gonna be the Marlins getting him.
Yeah, you know how it is.
And he's gonna plunk Acuna when he comes back.
Yeah, he's gonna pluck Acuna.
Continue the tradition.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, do we talk about Garrett Cole getting COVID?
Oh yeah, that just came out. So Garrett Cole, he just tested positive. He's gonna miss his start tonight, obviously.
That's a big loss for the Yankees.
Yeah, that's a big one. But as of late, the pitching's been pretty good. Outside of last night, obviously that pitcher Andrew Heaney, not a good fit with the Yankees in my opinion. I don't know why they traded for him. He's a fly ball
How
pitcher.
much did
Gave
they give
4
up
home
for
runs.
him?
It was negligible, almost nothing. But the thing is, I mean, he's a fly ball pitcher and he gave up 4 home runs last night. I mean, it was kind of expected.
Oh,
I don't know what they.
The Yankees feel like you have to get ground ball pitchers in
Yeah.
that park. It's the same issue with the Colorado Rockies, right? You got to get ground ball and strikeout guys, like
Yeah.
Garrett Cole, strikeout guy,
Mm-hmm.
Marcus Stroman, a ground ball guy. Just examples, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dallas Keuchel, the ground ball guy.
That's a good one. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But when you're getting a fly ball guy, like
Yeah,
Taiwan
it's not good.
Walker, for example, Taiwan Walker did better at Citi Field. You notice that?
Yeah, of course.
He's
It's
a
much
fly ball
better
guy, and it's the best
fly
ball.
ballpark. Yeah,
But if you have Taiwan Walker at Yankee Stadium, right, over the course of a full year, I don't
it
think
would
he's
not be good. I agree.
the same situation. So
Yep.
I think that the Mets are only 2.5 games up right now.
Yeah, I think they're in a little dangerous spot.
Now, here's an issue with them. They're playing NL East teams for a bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have the Marlins for 3 more games. That's okay. They lost 1, right? They lost 1. They have to win. Let's split the series at minimum. You got to split the series, right?
Yeah, they should be aiming higher, but yeah.
Should be aiming to win the next 3. So then you got the Phillies for 3. You got to win 2 out of 3 there. You can't
No excuses.
lose the series there. There's no excuses there because you got to beat the Phillies because they're the team right behind you.
Mm-hmm.
And you got the Nationals for 3. Now the Mets play the Nationals 11 times left for the rest of the year. That is a blessing.
They should be, yeah.
That should be a blessing to play the Nationals 11 times after they traded away basically their whole team except for Soto.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you got a hard stretch. Dodgers for 3, Giants for 3, Dodgers for 4, Giants for 3.
That's tough.
That is
That's brutal.
13 games against the Giants and Dodgers.
That could. I don't want to be too negative, but that could derail the season.
You have to go 500 there somehow. somehow. It's basically playoff baseball. Now the hope would be can DeGrom come back, but he's not for that.
Yeah, not for that stretch now.
So you're in trouble because that's all. I mean, after that, it gets easier. Then you got Miami again. You got Washington again. Then you got Miami again. Then you got the Yankees and Cardinals. So, I mean, the Yankees and Cardinals are another slightly more difficult stretch, but it's nothing like what they're about to face when they go over to the West Coast.
Yep, I agree.
I mean, West Coast baseball against those teams,
it's going to be tough.
Those are the two best teams in the league, pretty much.
Yeah.
The best two teams in the league, and you're facing them for an entire stretch. And the Mets they played Milwaukee too before they end the year. They played the Red Sox before they end the year. The one advantage they have is that they're playing Washington a few more times, 11 more times, and they got a lot against Philly.
Yeah, if Philly takes 2 out of 3 against the Mets.
If Philly starts winning, then
Mets are in trouble. Yeah,
they got a little bit of Miami. Luckily, they end the season against Miami and the Braves. So hopefully by that point, they're enough up or not far behind. I mean, we were hoping to not even have this conversation.
Yeah, that was ideal.
We were hoping the Mets would still be 4 or 5 games up, where they could afford to lose a game or 2, 3 games over the course of the West Coast trip. But that's going to be the issue, the West Coast trip.
Yeah, I don't want to cause panic, but
if they can't survive the West Coast trip, they're screwed.
Yeah, because they're not going to get a wild card. You got to think about that too.
They
very well could miss the playoffs.
They need to somehow go 500 over the West Coast.
It's a key stretch if you're a Mets fan.
Now,
watch closely.
Let me pull up the Philly schedule because I can't see the Braves making a deep run.
Well, even then, they'll probably compete well against the Mets if they play.
So the Phillies have Nationals, us, then they play the Dodgers for 3.
All right. Well, it's just 3. So,
then they got the Reds. Very nice series against the Diamondbacks.
Perfect.
They're going to eat right through that. They got the Padres. Tougher series. Rays. Diamondbacks again. That's like a blessing. Then they got the Nationals and Marlins.
Nationals, yeah, I was going to say, yep. See, they have similar to the Mets, but they get that extra padded of playing the Diamondbacks.
They have like padding in between the hard series,
which the Mets don't have.
Yeah. Then they have the Brewers, which are a tougher series, but they could probably pull that out. Rockies, Cubs, who are now going to be an easy stretch.
Yep.
Wow. They got the Orioles in there.
The Orioles are very bad. 30 below.
There.
Oh, wow.
Braves and Marlins.
If you're a Mets fan, that schedule should scare you. For the Phillies have that.
It does. I mean, the Phillies basically have the opposite schedule of us.
Almost, yeah.
Like when we play bad teams, they play good teams. I mean, it's not good. The hope would be that somehow they lose 2 out of 3 to Diamondbacks, something like that.
Yeah, I don't think the Phillies, they probably won't sweep through some of these games we expect. So I think it'll probably be a close division race.
They're still going to be able to take 2 out of 3 almost against teams like Diamondbacks and Rockies. You can't expect them to lose 2 out of 3 to the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
That's not happening.
They just won't sweep through the mid-tier teams like someone like the Dodgers would. But the thing is, even if they don't, they'll still be in a good position to beat out the Mets for the division if the Mets struggle against the NL West.
The hope would be that Nationals could lose against the Mets and win against the Phillies.
Ideally, yeah.
Ideally, that's really the team right now. The Nationals actually could decide the division more than the actual teams playing for it.
Yeah. All in all, should be some pretty tight playoff races for the Yankees and the Mets this year. So a lot of exciting baseball coming up.
I mean, the Mets pretty much have to win tonight, tomorrow. They got to take this Marlins series, first of all. First step, take the Marlins series. Second step, if you win 2 out of 3 or sweep out the Phillies, that's a very different situation going into the West Coast trip and going into Nationals trip. You got to start early, right? You can't. The worst case scenario is if you're a game under going into the West Coast trip.
Yeah. That's
And
not good.
your season's over at that point.
Pretty much, yeah.
You cannot be a game under going into play these teams. Maybe they could take 2 out of 3 against the Giants if they face the right pitchers. Same
Maybe.
for the Dodgers if they face the right pitchers, which I doubt.
Yeah.
End up perfect, right?
That's just hoping, yeah.
That's just hoping. And you got to hope that maybe someone like Carrasco could steal you a game because he's back now.
Yeah.
But you're praying for perfect situations at this point. I mean, you're playing 2 best teams in the league for weeks.
Yep.
I mean, that's 2 weeks worth of games. You're screwed there if you don't show
Yep.
up on time. Another hope would be if the Yankees drop off by that point, when the Mets play them. That could
Maybe.
be a blessing for the Mets, but that could also be a blessing for the Yankees if the Mets drop off.
True. Yeah.
you
So
have to
yeah,
think
this is a little dynamic there.
Both teams are in very tough. I mean, the Mets are in possibly the worst situation they could be in, or it could be the best if things work out perfectly. You have to think the next week decides more for the Mets than for any other team in baseball right now.
Yeah.
And how they show up against the Dodgers or Giants, if they do make the playoffs, could also show a future. Do we even have a chance?
It's a good point, yeah.
I mean, if the
Either
Mets
way,
show up big time and let's say sweep out the Phillies, sweep out the remainder against the Marlins, take 2 out of 3 against the Nationals, something like that, then they go to play the Giants, Dodgers, and they somehow can win 2 out of 3, right? Or even just go 500 against them. That could mean a lot more. That could increase your chances of winning the whole thing, honestly. If you show up there, you spook those teams a little bit. They have to think for a second. Wait, this team's actually pretty good.
Yep.
Can't see that happening without big time hitting them.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. It's like you said, even if the Mets, these games could be previews, or it could be something that sinks their season. So these are very, very crucial games coming up.
You know who might have to do it? Michael Conforto. Of all the hitters on the Mets right now, if McNeil's hitting, right, which he is right now, he's tearing a cover off the ball right now. If Alonso's hitting home runs, and you go to the West Coast where Alonso's going to hit even more home runs, and then you get Conforto being that doubles hitter, that's where your season could be saved right there. Because Conforto has shown that when he's hitting, the Mets offense is insane.
Yeah.
And Nimmo's healthy, which right now he has a little injury thing going on. But if the Mets are healthy somewhat and their offense is clicking, that's a big thing on offense. You can't depend on the pitching right now. Like the team that was depending 100% on pitching, they have no pitching right now. Outside of Stroman, no one's really fully dependable right now. Because So a very dangerous situation for the Mets. Honestly, I can see the Braves making a run at this point. I know we were counting the Braves out. They're still in it. Yeah.
Now because we're starting to get some guys back.
Yeah, Braves starting to
get count them out.
Yeah, I can't count the Braves out. The Phillies, I certainly can't count out because they have a blessed schedule. Yep. And the Mets have the hardest schedule left in baseball, pretty much.
Yeah.
But if they get through the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks with an intact lead, they have it. That's pretty safe. And I think that's how we're going to end the baseball segment right here. That's
all right.
Mets got to make it through the next few weeks.
I agree.
Go.
All right. Let's.
You ready?
Yep.
You ready? Draft day. Go.
All right. So, very briefly, the Knicks made a whole bunch of trades on draft night. So coming into it, they were picking at 19, 21, and 32. That is not where they ended up with. They traded the 19th pick to the Hornets for a 2022 protected first-round pick. It's going to be protected for the lottery for 2 years, meaning if the pick falls in the lottery, they don't get the pick. After those 2 years, if the pick has not conveyed, it goes to a lesser protection, top 10. And if after that it still doesn't convey, it's going to be 2 second-round picks. So the Knicks are betting that the Hornets are going to be good enough to avoid the lottery in the next few years. And I think that's a pretty reasonable assumption. I mean, right before
so then it becomes more picks, right? You get 2 second-rounders.
Yeah, if it doesn't convey at all through the 4 years of protections, it'll become 2 second-round picks. but I have a strong feeling that it will convey. Last year, before LaMelo Ball and Gordon Hayward got injured, they were pretty solidly a playoff team. So I think there's a good chance that the next that pick will convey. So they're going to be getting an extra first round pick to add to the war chest. Whether they use that in potential future trades, that's to be seen. Then at 21, they traded down again to 25, where they selected shooting guard Quentin Grimes. He was a former top prospect at Kansas, didn't really work out, and then he transferred. And the reason that's important is because it shows he was a pretty top heralded prospect. So he was a very, ball heavy point guard, but he had to learn a completely different style. So now he's a pretty hard worker. And he's the kind of guy that's going to fit in Thibodeau's scheme and the Knicks culture that they've been building. So that was a pretty big reason why they picked him. And then after that, they traded down from 32 to 36, and they picked up 2 additional second round picks, where they got Deuce McBride. He's a point guard, and they got a overseas draft and stash guy. So he won't be joining the team this year. He'll be in Barcelona for the year. And then after that, all of that at 58, they took a center, Jericho Sims, and he'll probably be in the G League. He's similar to someone like Mitchell Robinson. That's a guy they're going to be for the future. Yeah.
Can I note something with Quentin Grimes for a 2nd?
Mm-hmm.
His free throw percentage increased significantly, almost by 10 points, right? And that, to me, is a sign of a hardworking player, because that's the one thing you can 100% always work on.
Absolutely.
Free throws, if there's anything a basketball player has full control on, it's that, right? And that increasing shows he might just be the perfect guy for Thibodeau's system, right?
I agree.
You can work hard you figured out, hey, this is a problem, I can easily fix it. And he showed he could work on that a lot. So he became a great free throw shooter.
Yeah, I think he's a very high character, hard worker, because like I said, he came in he was pretty much the face. He was expected to be a lottery pick. And then when that didn't work out, he had to change everything. He had to accept, okay, maybe I'm not that guy anymore. I have to be someone who's going to, play defense, work hard, and just do the little things. I think it's going to work really well for Thibodeau. He's that kind of guy.
Knicks basketball right now.
Exactly. That's what they established. They didn't have an identity or culture before this year until Thibodeau came in.
Somewhat similar to Islanders hockey.
Yeah, you could say that.
Defense first mentality, play hard. Do that the other team won't. You're not going to outscore every time, so stop them from scoring in the first place.
You gotta love that. It's fun to watch. It's fun to watch the Knicks. They play tough. They play hard.
And it's been a long time since I said that.
It's true.
There were years where honestly it was tough to turn TV on.
100%. It was tough.
There were games where after a quarter you couldn't watch it.
And not only that, I mean, if you ask me about a game from, let's say, 2017 to before this season, the whole thing kind of just blurs away. There was nothing that you could kind of take away from it. Whereas last season, you could
pretty much
say
Melo, and that's it. That's all.
Yeah.
All the big moments were Melo, and that's what else was there.
But then last year, you could say you could point and say, yeah, you could say, look, they played hard. They were probably the best defense in the whole league last year. They're gonna you come to MSG, they're gonna shut you down pretty much. That's the identity now.
And that's going to be important come playoff times. You're assuming Knicks are going to make it again, right? I mean,
especially with the free agency.
They were a top 5 team, top 16. I mean, they showed they could be up there.
Yeah, and that goes into their free agency. Yesterday they pretty much brought back all the key contributors. They brought back Alec Burks on a 3-year deal, Derrick Rose 3 years, and Nerlens Noel. And the only guy they didn't bring back, well, obviously Elfrid Payton's not coming back. That's obvious.
We assume that, given.
Yeah.
I mean, he's good defensively.
Yeah.
He works hard, right? He fits your system, but he fits a system. He's not the right guy for your system right now.
Exactly.
He was good for last year. He worked last year, right? But going forward, you have to improve there.
Yeah. And the thing is, the thing was, so they didn't bring back Bullock. He signed with the Mavericks, but in my opinion, they upgraded on him with the acquisition of Evan Fournier. He's going to do a lot of the same things that Bullock could offensively. He can still spot up and shoot threes very well. In fact, I think he's a better 3-point shooter than Bullock. And not only that, he can also create his own shot. So I mean, last year in the playoffs, you remember Bullock, whenever he wasn't able to support Randall because he couldn't create his own shot, and that allowed the Hawks to kind of key in on Randall. They were able to double and look really load up on Randall.
Randall
But
almost
now,
got shut down completely in the playoffs.
he,
Pretty.
yeah, I mean the Knicks had no other offensive options outside of Derrick Rose, and obviously that's a lot for him to shoulder at his age. So bringing in someone like Fournier is going to help alleviate a lot of the pressure off of Randall and Barrett going forward. So I think that alone is a key acquisition.
Now Derrick Rose on a 3-year deal, right?
Yeah, 3
Three-
years, 43 million.
So Keith, you think he's gonna hold up?
Depends what kind of minutes he gets, but I think he should.
That's a great
Right.
question.
For at least the first 2 seasons, I don't see any problems. Third season, maybe a bit much.
I could see. I mean, minutes are the concerns. If he's your starter for any period of time, he's not holding up.
I agree.
That's,
That's one of the questions right now. We don't really know where he's gonna. First of all, we don't know who the Knicks point guard is going to be still. If you have any big criticism of the Knicks offseason so far, it's got to be that we still don't know who the point guard is. I agree with you. I don't think Derrick Rose can be a full-time point guard for the starting point guard for the whole year. I think he just can't do it at this point. I think he's probably best off the bench. I think he'd do really great with the 6-man role. So that kind
Derrick
of brings
Rose,
the question.
man, he suits your system well as that
Hmm.
offensive boost. Now, defensively, I don't think you could depend on him to be your
No,
a defensive point guard, right?
yeah, I agree.
That's something you might have to bring somebody in for as a short-term 1-year, 2-year deal, just
Yeah,
to fill in maybe off the bench here and there, or get a starter who's capable.
yeah. I mean, like look at
Even
last year, right?
Kind of, the point guard position doesn't have to carry your defense in the Thibodeau system.
Yeah,
all.
he has to give effort pretty much.
Yeah, you just have
That's
to
the
give
key.
effort. That's it. You can't just be capable and give effort.
I mean, look at last year. Towards the end of the season, Elfrid Payton, he was the starter, but he played like 15 minutes and then rose and quickly played the rest of the way. So the Knicks could get someone who can start, be the quote unquote starter, but not play starter minutes and split the starter minutes with Rose and quickly. Someone like Reggie Jackson still unsigned.
Now, Quickly could be a good piece. I mean,
Yeah.
Quickly, he showed some offense too here and there.
Oh, I think quickly is awesome, honestly. I don't think he's ready to start though.
He's not ready to start. But
Yeah, I agree. He's not good as a playmaker yet.
Started on a bridge deal,
Yep.
but who's that going to be?
Could be someone, like I said, Reggie Jackson. Could be a 1-year deal. 10 minutes. The thing is, the
But
Knicks.
is he gonna do enough?
I think he will because he did a pretty good job in the playoffs. I mean, he defended well. He shot 3 well. He can make plays for himself and others. I mean, he's not spectacular, but like you said, he's a bridge guy. Until they find that star point guard that they're looking for.
When are they going to find a star point guard? Because I mean, that's a piece that the Knicks have always been missing. I mean,
honestly,
it's a hard position to find someone at, but it also seems like all the good teams have it.
It may end up being a situation where the Knicks point guard isn't the star, but they end up with a star wing that pretty much acts as a point guard. Like, let's say Bradley Beal, right? So obviously Beal he's not a playmaker, but they may distribute the traditional point guards playmaking roles across like for the whole team. Like let's say they acquired Beal, Randall and RJ Barrett together, they can create enough offense to recreate what a traditional star point guard would do.
I think Bradley Beal could actually do that. I think he actually fits the system decently well, especially if he works hard at it. The one thing you have to be sure of, though, with the Knicks is if they're bringing in players that fit their culture right now. Because once you set that culture, you can't lose it.
I agree that you have to carefully vet players that they bring in.
It's like the Islanders with Josh Hosang right now. Right, he's gone because he didn't fit the culture.
That's fair,
Knicks have to deal with the same situation. If someone comes in and they don't fit your culture, I don't care how much you're paying them, right? I don't care if they're scoring, 15, 20 a night, right? Consistently for you. If they're not playing defense and there are guys out there that could do better playing defense, the Knicks have to consider it.
I agree. I feel like the Knicks are in good hands, like for the first time, maybe in a long time.
First time
So
ever.
probably in my lifetime.
Yeah,
Uh,
that time for sure.
I trust what they're doing for the most part. I think they're taking it slow, not making any crazy back-breaking moves. I think also these contracts are very tradable. So if there's a situation where there's a star that wants out and we need to make a trade, these contracts aren't, liabilities. So I think the Knicks are still flexible while bringing, they're going to be competitive next year while also keeping an eye on the future. So I approve of what the Knicks have done.
I mean, somehow we're gonna get Donovan Mitchell, right?
We would love that.
Right,
Yes, they
Keith?
will. Right? Yeah, right, Keith?
Good luck.
We're gonna get Donovan Mitchell for nothing, right? You're gonna give it to us, right?
Yeah, gonna hand him over.
Guys are gonna give him to us.
Yeah.
He's gonna request a trade because he's a Mets fan. He wants to play in New York.
You guys don't have enough to give up though. You
Yeah.
think
We'll see.
KD is gonna go with Brooklyn?
So that's all
wraps
about
up.
this segment, right?
Yeah, that wraps up our basketball segment.
So Donovan Mitchell to the Knicks confirmed. Oh, too early. Sorry, that's next week.
All right.
A second rounder due to him being disgruntled and angry at the front office. All right, so let's go into football for a minute because we haven't really gotten into it. So Giants training camp. They have a call today.
Yeah,
and,
just happened.
Just happened. And it doesn't really look good because Daniel Jones looked like he was involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like he got dumped in it. And
Yeah.
that's your quarterback and he's in a brawl, that's not good.
Yeah.
If he gets hurt, right? Because the Giants can actually make it to the playoffs this year, right? That division's pretty weak.
Yeah. They're a potential playoff team.
Yeah. I guess a 7-8 win. I guess 8 wins this year, right? With being under 500, 8 wins. I mean, the Giants could make it with 8 wins, 7 wins this year, which is embarrassingly low. But that's not what you want to see out of your team in training camp. I mean, you want to see them coming together and starting to build. I guess maybe if you're going to get a brawl out of the way now, right? It's a time.
Yeah, might as well do it now.
Yeah, if you're gonna, I'd rather you do this now than mid-season when you're collapsing, right? That's not the time to do it.
And you know the thing,
Go
I
ahead.
trust Joe Judge. He's a good culture guy, so I mean, I think he'll get this all straightened out. But you're right; it doesn't look great on the team right now to be brawling. Hopefully the team chemistry
He had the
is
whole
all right.
He has the whole team running 100-yard sprints right now. So that's the report we got right now. He's running.
Yeah.
He's having a run, which I completely agree with.
Hopefully that'll get it all straightened out.
While we're on the topic of the Giants, you want to talk about Shaquan Barkley for a minute?
Yeah.
So he's coming back from a very tough surgery.
Yep.
Right. For a running back, it's even worse, probably.
Yeah. You gotta make quick cuts.
Outside of maybe a slant receiver or those types of receivers, it's probably the worst type of position to have that at.
Yeah, I agree.
Anything ACL, I mean, that's a stop and go
Exactly.
type maneuver. I mean, that's when you need to stop on a dime and move. And as a running back, right? Let's say you're going straight, and you gotta suddenly turn completely.
Yeah, it's also kind of like that's a big part of his game. He's a very Saquon's a very shifty running back.
Yeah.
He's very elusive. He's not a power guy. He's gonna make guys miss.
He's not a power guy. He's an elite running back when he's healthy. But now we have to see if he can come back 100%. Now the one advantage I think he has is he has pretty big legs.
Yeah.
So you could sometimes it could take a bit of the damage away from the ACL, and you could absorb a bit of the running shock, right, from making split-second twists and turns while you're running. I mean, the ability to stop suddenly on a dime and turn completely, that might not come back fully, right? That's the concern with him. If that isn't 100%, then that could be a problem long term. I mean, running in a straight line, he could do that probably fine.
Yeah.
So he's not stopping. I mean, but running and stopping and turning around, moving over, jumping to your right, getting over a lineman, that's what he's going to have issues with. and that's what his game is.
Yeah. Yeah. So I wouldn't be super surprised if he takes a step back. Also, the Giants' offensive line isn't very great. So that could
You
contribute
also don't
to.
want him taking some massive hits early on
True.
because
Yeah.
so another thing is I heard the Giants talking about giving him a limited workload.
Interesting. It's interesting. I think that'd be
But
smart. Start off.
it's smart. I don't know if I mean at least in preseason, you're not
Oh
giving
yeah, for
running
sure.
back one workload.
They have to be careful with
Probably
that.
into the first few games, I could see it. I mean, Adrian Peterson and Jamal Charles are the only two running backs to really fully come back from this type of surgery and be a number one running back receiver type role. Now, there's a chance maybe he only is a running back, right, from here on out. Doesn't really have that full ability to slant over to a receiver role, right?
Yeah, at least for this year.
At least for this year. I mean, I can't see him running like corner routes ever if he ever had to.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Yeah, but
not happening.
But yeah, and the good thing from that perspective is I don't think the Giants are really going to ask him to, because I know
Yeah.
Jason Garrett, his play calling, he doesn't really have the running backs run creative routes. So at least if he does run any routes, it'll be pretty basic. So obviously that's not a good thing if you're constructing an offense, but it might actually be a good thing for his injury.
Well, you might have
If
to
you-
do it anyway this year, right?
True, yeah. So if you want to take a silver lining, yeah, that'll help.
I guess if anyone could come back from it, like if any running back right now got hurt with this,
Could be him.
I would think he'd come back.
Yeah.
If any running back
guess
could
so.
do it right now, it's him. So you want to get into Jets football?
Yeah, let's talk a little about Zach Wilson. Start off.
So, fine.
His first day at camp wasn't great. He looked a
No.
little rattled.
He was also a bit late to camp.
Yeah, also can't forget about that. His contract dispute with the Jets.
He made a throw to Elijah Moore that Elijah Moore kind of carried.
Yeah. Oh, it's Elijah Moore. That's a whole other thing. Elijah Moore, I think I'm very high on him. I think he could be a
receiver.
I agree. I think so. I think he has to be a starter.
I also heard some notes that the receiving corps is doing pretty well, honestly, all things considered. I mean, which means the issue with Wilson, which is not good.
I think this is going to be a
learning
really new look Jets team. I think they're going to surprise a lot. I'm not saying playoffs, but I think this is going to be a pretty competitive, fun to watch team.
You got to pass. You got to make sure you can beat out Cam Newton, right? And you got to make sure you can beat out Josh Allen, which is even more difficult than beating out Cam Newton.
Yeah, it won't be this year. I mean, we should temper our expectations with Zach Wilson. He's still a rookie. Obviously, you want to see flashes and signs with him, but we can't expect him to come out and dominate.
Well, if the receiving corps shows up,
that's going to help.
There's a chance he could get boosted by. I mean, even look at Braxton Berrios. He's what, your fifth, sixth receiver right now?
Yeah, that just shows you.
And he was solid last year. He wasn't great, but he was solid. And he also got a bit bigger. He's faster, certainly. He's getting in better shape. And honestly, he's a good return man.
Yeah.
He's probably the best return man I just have had in a while. And they've had some horrible return men, but having Braxton Berrios returning punts, that could really help your team.
Yeah, well, you see that's the thing. The Jets never had receiver depth. Like you said, Braxton Berrios was a starter last year.
He was,
and now we have him
too. That's how scary.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it was rough last year. It was rough.
He was your one for a bit. I mean,
yeah, that was bad.
Yeah,
you don't want that. But
to be fair, he had some. To be fair, he played decent. He wasn't bad.
But having him as your sixth guy, that's really good. I mean, you have Corey Davis. I think Elijah Moore. He's pushing for that number 2 spot though. I really think so.
He might not be able to take the 1. I could see
by the end of the year, maybe.
I could see him
possible. I think Elijah Moore is going to be really, really good. I see a lot of Antonio Brown in him. I see a lot of it. He can play on the slot. He can play outside. He's explosive. Also, you can give him the ball wherever, and he can be like a running back. You still have Crowder, yeah. You have Mims. Yep. Keelan Cole's really good. He might be the second guy.
They have a nice group going. I mean, it's not like they don't have much. Braxton Berrios is your 6th receiver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, look at that.
So you got Corey Davis, Crowder, Cole, Moore, Mims, and Berrios.
Yeah, remember Mims was also a 2nd round pick. So that's even just last year.
Now, the one disadvantage with Mims is that he's a deep ball receiver.
Yeah, he's not shifty.
You have to question if Wilson can get there as often as you think, right?
Yeah, we'll have to see.
We'll have to see him actually in a game because here's the thing. In college, he didn't really have to make as many of those throws, right? And when he did, usually the receivers were wide open.
Yeah.
So like, we didn't see any like tight 30, 40-yard balls down the line, which you won't see a lot at the NFL level anyway. But
Yeah,
Wilson has a few questions, right?
of course. Yeah, he's not perfect. There's a reason why he wasn't one.
Almost every rookie quarterback does, outside of like
course.
Trevor Lawrence right now.
Yeah, that was rare.
I mean, Trevor Lawrence is a rare exception.
And even he has some stuff. It's
Yeah,
not as big
even
as
that, he's still learning a whole new system.
no
All
one's
these guys
perfect.
are learning a system. I mean, any quarterback moving teams and learning a system has to, go through a process.
And I think it's also important to note that the system is also gonna lift the player up. You can't just have a player coming in and carry. You have to have a system in place, like the Jets are. I think what the Jets are doing. You have, like you said, the receiving core is looking good. Offensive line looks a lot better. You got some talented young players and some veterans on there. I think it should be rough. It should be about league average, I think, which is fine, much better than what they had for Darnold. So I think already they're doing a lot better job surrounding Wilson than they ever did for Darnold. So
Now, if Zach Wilson's arm strength is actually there on deep ball, right? Because that's the only question I think he could learn the system pretty well because, I mean, we've seen him in college. His short passes are elite.
Oh, yeah.
Like
that's what the system needs, too.
His ability to read short passes and make quick decisions is amongst the best I think I've ever seen out of a college quarterback.
That's what it is. That's where they got him, really.
That's why they got him. He fit their system
beautifully.
The hope is that, I mean, Joe Douglas knew this guy fits your system, right?
Yep.
His full intention was to do this. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gotten him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, Wilson probably not only fits your system, but if he can, I mean, he has the right receiving core for himself, right? Relative. Yep. You have to assume that outside of Mims, everyone kind of fits his system too.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we also heard at training camp, even Braxton Berrios diving for balls. So, I mean, if he's throwing to Berrios, right, quite often too. The only guy I didn't hear a lot about was Mims.
Yeah, he's kind of been a little. They're phasing him out a little bit. I don't know how I feel about that, but even so, he's still depth.
If he doesn't fit your system, you kind of have to, right? I mean,
yeah. Well, it remains to be seen. We'll see as we get deeper into training camp with the pads on, and then once we see the preseason games, that's when we'll really get a better sense of that.
The first preseason game or two are kind of throwaway games anyway.
Yeah.
But once we get to like the late second, third, once you start seeing a little more Wilson and a little less of the backups. I mean, I could see the first game just being like Morgan, right?
Yeah, a lot of him probably.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what just need a backup maybe.
Maybe I think me personally, I think they need a backup. I don't think the Jets think they need a backup though.
Yeah, I think they could use someone. I mean, even if you have to like call Josh McCown.
Yeah, that would be great. Honestly,
that'd be great.
Just someone.
You know how I think it was Philly or some team had him on a contract to sit at home and watch football in case they needed him.
He's such a good locker room guy.
Yeah.
Just to kind of end this, I'm really excited to see the Jets. I haven't said that a lot past few years.
Well, I said for Darnold multiple times.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fine. The first time.
No, I said it last year. I thought, if he's healthy, he'll have a good year. I think. No, he was this time. He never was really healthy too.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I hope this time. Well, I mean,
honestly. I hope so too. I saw him throw an interception to double coverage yesterday, training camp. But that's I don't want to speak ill of him.
Double coverage though, you can't throw that.
Yeah, that's why I killed him. But it's not just obviously I'm excited to see Zach, obviously. But I'm really excited to see everyone else.
Zach versus Sam, game 1.
Oh, I can't wait for that. It's gonna be good.
Yeah. Whoever scheduled that game.
Oh, that was
give him perfect. A raise.
They knew what they were doing.
That guy knows what he's doing. Whoever set that up, like the second after the trade happened,
good for him. Thank you. A lot of pressure is going to be. That should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right. All
The
right.
hope is Wilson's throw like 3 picks game 1. That's the hope.
Cross our fingers.
Watch if Darnold throws like 3 picks, right? And Wilson out battles him or something like that, even if it's barely a touchdown, then Jets fan base is going crazy.
It's good. It's good. Someone's gonna be going crazy. It's gonna be crazy either way.
Yeah, no matter what
It's
happens.
It's gonna be a lot of discourse. It'll be
Watch it just be a complete stalemate where defense scores touchdowns.
That'd be the worst thing for content creation.
Special teams scores the only touchdown in the game. Punt return by Barrios.
Yep. Jets walk it off.
Yeah. All right, I think that's it for this one. Zach Wilson's a GOAT. Tua sucks.
Spread the word.